Do you know what Jesus says to do to overcome temptation? I just want to highlight two pieces of advice that Jesus gives us when it comes to overcoming temptation. Jesus says in Matthew 26:41, keep watching and praying so that you do not come into temptation. The spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. So he instructs us whenever we're being tempted for one to be vigilant against that temptation, to not be lackadaisical nor to be lazy, but to be vigilant, but also to pray. And he tells us to do this because the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. And so because the spirit is willing and the flesh is weak, we need to make sure that we pray that we can receive power from God and strength from God to resist that temptation. And because the flesh is weak, if we're not careful, we will fall into temptation easily if we're not vigilant. In this other piece of advice, Jesus tells us in Matthew chapter 18, verses 8 through 9, in which he says, and if your hand or your foot is causing you to sin, cut it off and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter life maimed or without a foot than to have 2 hands or 2 feet and be thrown into the eternal fire. And if your eye is causing you to sin, tear it out and throw it away from you. It is better for you to enter life with 1 eye than to have 2 eyes and be thrown into the fiery hell. And Jesus here is giving us a beautiful and amazing principle to remove things in our life that are consistently and constantly leading us into sin and tempting us. Because it's better for you to remove that thing from your life than it to cause you to sin or for it to tempt you. So we as Christians should examine our lives and see what are some things in our lives that are regularly leading us to sin or causing us to sin. And if we can and it's reasonable for us to do so, we should strive to remove these things from our life. Because it's better for us to not have these things rather than them leading us into temptation. So here's a bit of advice that Jesus gives us to overcoming temptation. I hope that this helped and that this was useful to you. If you want more content like this, go ahead and drop a sub or follow.